Do we have a theme?
The theme I'm working on right now is becoming aware when I'm in the story and practicing stepping aside.
Okay, well, that's great. I mean, I do want to advise you that's still a story, but okay.
That's the
Uh,
story itself, right? That's my story right now.
there's no
Okay.
escape. There's no escape from the story. Um,
Hmm.
I would have a question to this deconstructing
hmm,
this it's also strong in myself in the form of like doubt and skepticism and negativity, I would say, always seeing the stuff that could go wrong and so on and so on. Seeing the flaws, the faults, the everything. So it's a negative. My conditioning is, I would say, negative. Negative. And I would rather have a positive conditioning, but that's not the way it is. It's negative. So
hmm,
and what Linda said and you and she said, oh, I'm stepping out of the story, and then it was kind of a hope in that, and then you said, oh, it's another story. So that's a deconstructing.
hmm.
It's of course true, yeah. But so actually, my question I think would be how to stay how to stay positive in the negative, how to
Well, no, but
not
Boris,
be.
deconstruction is not going to the negative. It's simply seeing that positive, negative, any description is not the thing itself. It's a very simple. So that doesn't leave us in a negative space. It leaves us in an energetic space. And the energetic space can manifest anything. Sometimes it manifests negativity. So sometimes it's positive, we can fall in love and we can fall out of love, right? These are states of mind. I mean, with the love I'm talking about being romantic love or, projected love. Maybe there's some transcendental love that we don't fall out of, but you know, again, like the approach to that is full of so many stories. It does require deconstruction. So I won't even go there. But I would say that it's not, I don't think of deconstruction as a negative space. I feel it's like a perceptual space. It's simply seeing that the nature of the human mind is to create a narrative, a conceptual framing, a vehicle for navigating what is essentially an unbounded universe. And I'm not even saying that's a problem. So when Linda says I'm stepping out of the story, yeah, of course this is an act of intelligence on her part uh, to to engage life in a more complete way than whatever her conditioning is. And it's a beautiful thing when somebody says that, and also to understand that immediately we create the next story, which is a better story. So, but that's not a negative space. It's just simply seeing the flow of mind, which is constantly describing, and the flow of life itself, which is beyond description. And that's a paradoxical space. I mean, we all have the mind flow, the mind stream that's happening, and there's the space around that. And the space around it is what we share. The mind stream is what divides us. So we have both of those things. We have the individuation, which is, our conditioning, our what we've learned, what we project. That's happening for each of us. That's our individuation. We have the body state, all the traumatic memories that our bodies hold. And then I say, I want to engage you. Well, my individuation can only navigate a kind of transactional deal with you. And yet I yearn for more. There's a longing for something And that longing takes us to the edge of the ideation, the edge of the known. And perhaps we have the capacity to drop what we know and enter into something we don't know. So that's the deconstruction. But immediately from the unknown, we construct, oh, that's the unknown. That's really great. I'm amazing. I just did that thing. Let me tell you about it, Boris. I was just in the unknown, and it's so cool there because I felt connected to you, right? So, this is the continuous dialogue, if you will, between the known and the unknown. And in a way, if you see this, you sort of have entered into what would be called, what the Buddhists would call, maybe the Hindus as well, the tantric space in which there's a merger of the unknown and the known. And so I'm in contact with the structure of mind as an expression of the unknown. So I'm not in resistance to it. I see it as what it is, but I'm in it. So, here recently there was a conversation here in my immediate circumstance around a few people trying to create a community. And, kind of a beautiful sensibility. And in that, they touched into a space of connected love. Well, immediately in that space is the resistance to it, is the reaction to it, is the individuation coming back in and saying, wait a second, is that safe? Am I okay? Will I get what I need? In that, there was a collapse of that feeling of love. And one of the individuals said to me, like, what, all I want is that love. Why does it go into this space? And to me, it's like the collapse is the love. The resistance is the love. This is the tantric space when you're both, the lovers are in such irritation with each other and such reaction and such anger, right? So now I'm in the anger. When I'm in the anger with you, I'm in connection with you. It's not anger anymore. It's energy. But when I say, oh, you're angry, I'm not, or I'm angry, you're not, or we're angry and that we shouldn't be, that space where we divide ourselves from the thing itself becomes conceptual, becomes very complicated to navigate. But if I'm in the so-called anger with you, it's not really anger, it's really energy then. It doesn't have a name, it has a quality. So this is a different way of navigating, is to just be with what shows up. To trust that. This is the surrender, if you will, to reality. Because reality becomes actuality when you don't resist it. And this is very practical, actually, in your life. Within yourself, in your relationship, in whatever your occupation is, whatever you do with yourself in a day, to be in a non-resistance to the thing itself, to the thing that shows up, to your own mind, even. Now I'm not stepping out of the story, I am the story, and the story is transformed into this unnameable flow. That was a lot.
Yes,
Okay.
that was nice.
So how does that relate to sort of mass anger? I
Yeah.
think Alex mentioned not long ago the collective angst or whatever, but clearly we're living in a time of a lot of people are angry. So how does that, what's the bridge there?
It's actually the same. I think the thing is when that energy, when you touch into that energy, the immediate response is to make a story about it, about me. Like my circumstance. I'm angry because you didn't respect me, whatever, So that energy, the response to that energetic space is to look for a story. Now, when the energy itself is greater than the story, which is to say that we're into more of an archetype rather than an individual story. Now we're into the collective story. That's really about the intensity of the energy. So the way this has been showing up in my circumstance is that energy, that anger that you're talking about that's in the society has been showing up in my system in with such intensity that it could have nothing to do with my paltry little life. Like I don't have enough good material going on in my life to feel that level of anger energy. Like I can't even make a story of it that somebody's mad at me or that I did something that, aggravating. Like the little life doesn't have that much energy in it. And so when it shows up, and then I mentioned this at a dinner recently, and this guy that was at the dinner said, "Oh yeah, was that, Monday night from, 10 o'clock until 6 in the morning?" I said, "Yeah, all night." And then we were talking, this other guy came in and he was like, "Oh yeah, was that Monday night?" So there, like there's a space there that's visiting us, that we're visiting, that I would say is a larger energy than what the individual's story has the capacity to capture. Now, what there's what is there to be done with that? I don't know. It's pretty intense. The collective space is pretty intense, and particularly when it's so concentrated as it seems to be right now. And I would say, coincidentally with that intense collective anger, violence, we can use that word, violence, really. There's at the same time this very intense expression to collectivize, to create community, to create connection in care and love and support that's happening simultaneously. Or to put it another way, our complacency has been shaken to the core. And out of that, maybe something new emerges. But I don't know beyond that. And I think to say something more than that would be to create sort of a idealization. I would just say there's a lot of energetic movement right now in the human psyche. Does that address what you were asking?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not personal, but it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can just see, like, again, it's like, I think the individual work, if we can say it's work, is to, like, clarify your own personal life. Like just, put it in order, like take care of your diet, your exercise, your finances, your relationship structure, so that you don't have a lot of clutter and you don't have a lot of distraction. And then you may have access to this larger landscape. And then I think collectively, this is where this dialogic space, I think, has the capacity actually to touch into this archetypal, this large scale energetic space, because it's really what we're doing. We're meeting in some very open way, and with the capacity to touch into those energies. So I think if there's something to do, it's just like those basic things in your life. Having done that, then the rest is sort of what occurs. I'm not sure what there is to do about those archetypal energies other than to be with them. But I'll get back to you on that.
If I can just ask, I'm familiar with how sort of individual anger shows up for me, but the collective anger that you're sensing, I mean, how does that show up?
Well, I think it might, all I can tell you is how it shows up in my system, but I don't know if that's like a model. It may show up in different ways in different systems and different, so for me, the visitation of that energy was a kind of ooh, like a energetic um, sledgehammer in my solar plexus repeatedly, like a intense, undulating, throbbing, like if you imagine individual anger, that times 10,000. Like the rage you might feel, like somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody says disrespectful, and that kind of flush of anger that can arise, particularly for men. I mean, this is a male system that I'm in. I do have occasional access to the feminine, but mostly I export that to other people who are actually women who do a much better job of it. But in that male anger, like there is total destruction potential, right? I can become very violent, very just aggressive, the whole male energy. So that's the energy, but it's way bigger than this individual. It has that kind of like destroy the world quality, and it's coming to me first. It'll take me out first. That's kind of the quality of it. So that in this particular case, and I don't have an interpretation of this. I'm just reporting. This began at, basically at 10 o'clock at night and went until 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was it. It was like there was no sleep or anything else. It was just that energy. And, the response for me, the response was to simply, again, it's sort of a tantric response, which is I am that energy. What is it? I'm curious. I'm in it. I'm not running from it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm not trying to fix it or cure it. What is it? And that quality that I'm describing is kind of like a description, not the thing itself, but the thing itself is pretty overwhelming. And I could, like I did try a few stories, like she was disrespectful, he like, said something. But those little tiny stories were like laughable. That doesn't explain this energy. In the same way, like when you experience, let's say, the big space, the big love, and you try to explain it with this beautiful woman you just met, it's like, doesn't really work. And if you do explain it with that beautiful woman you met, and then you try to embody it like that way, a month later, that beautiful woman becomes a hag, becomes a banshee. She's like ripping out your heart and eating it in front of you. And so, but you're still in the big space going, wow, that's really interesting that big energy can become like that. So you can try to make it into a small story, but these very large energies they don't have tolerance for these little stories, it seems like, or so it seems to me. But again, I'm trying to describe something here which is probably best described by collective experience, like the collective, like when I connected with these other two men who had very similar experiences, very similar time frame. Just the fact that was experienced in that way showed me the size of it, if you will, the expansion of it. It wasn't like I was pissed off for an hour and I lost sleep, and nobody else had that experience. That's like, okay, little story, get over it, get some therapy, do some push-ups, whatever it is. But like it's irrelevant to really the kinds of things that we're talking about. But when energies arrive that are beyond the ability to have the story, whether it's this what we call anger, but it's really kind of an intense destructive energy, or whether it's love, which we could say is this expansive, creative, just full of emergent potential. Those energies are just giant energies that are sweeping through not just me but us. And for those who happen to be alert to it or whatever, then they may experience it. Most people probably won't experience it because their situation is too cluttered. So I don't know. This is good.
Too cluttered, or potentially there's some kind of dissociation that occurs that before it's even felt.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, my structure would want to shift that away from that energy. It was so unpleasant. In the same way that when the big love comes, my energy situation wants to grasp it and have more of it and call it something. Like, I'm in love with you and you're in love with me, right? You're going to always be in love with me, right? Let's get married and you promise that I can put a ring on you and then you'll never, never look anyplace else because I want this all the time, right? So that's the attraction, but the repulsion part is just as strong. It's like, I want to get away from this thing. Maybe I should, like, read a book or go watch a movie or, you know, go run around the block or, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm in Colorado, it'd be like go smoke a joint. So this is, I mean, this is the way we respond to these energies. And there's, you know, obviously other kinds of energies besides just those two extremes, but that's the kind of thing that, yeah, I think you can disassociate.
Yeah.
We can, I mean, as a culture, as a collective, we are, you know, we have a culture of disassociation, obviously, because these energies are alive. And, you know, what's our response? You know, our response is more and more Instagram, you know, faster and faster, splitting our attention into smaller and smaller bits. So we have no capacity to remember anything or see anything.
Yeah, I just thought that most people maybe they are in connection with this archetypical or this deeper anger, but they have so many good stories to attach it to. And I think that's what we are seeing in the society right now. People having a lot of good stories to attach their anger to. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and those stories then get manipulated and enhanced and reinforced for power, control, and all that, you know. So yeah, it's and you know, of course it can show up in dreams. You know, this is the kind of a filtration system. You know, we can touch into these energies in these sort of Jungian ways and dreams and sort of vague moments of I don't know, do you call it, like, sort of the meanderings, the soft meanderings of the mind. Um, some vague, so there's kind of like this vague um, anxiety that runs through our societies now. You know, most people, I would say, have a baseline of anxious fear, and the training is to alleviate that by working harder. Right? If I work harder, then I'll have some security, financial security against that fear. But of course, that just makes more fear. That's a tough one to, yeah, to face, actually.
Yeah, you said that you try to stay interested. What is it, huh? When you encounter this anger.
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
You know, but I want to say, like, you know, the mini irritation that happens in uh, a relationship. Like, you know, this morning, this individual was, believe it or not, irritated with me. I mean, you can't
Oh,
imagine such a possibility. And it was just, but it, you know, I could see it was a spillover from another conversation with another person, right? But there it was focused on me. And so, of course, I, in an irritated way, called them on it, but it was in an irritated way, right? So in other words, those little movements of energy are so much easier to capture in a story and say, you hurt me and I'm like mad at you, right? Very easy. But when the energy is so large, it is inescapable. All you have left is, as Mark pointed out, disassociation, going like in some alternative universe, basically, so you don't have to experience it, or curiosity, because I'm in it. It does not have, it doesn't, your stories are not going to be able to capture it. And I think that the availability to that energy is when you don't have enough stories in your life. Like I don't have enough irritated people that I can be irritated with in my life to fill up the space, right? So I basically just have mostly just kind people who put up with me for whatever reason in loving ways. And so there's no story there to make other than just to be available. And that availability in a kind of cleaned up psychological space, I think allows us to go into this deeper space without storyfying it. I think if any of you have done, long or deep meditation retreats, that you oftentimes will come upon these spaces where the mind stream basically becomes less and less prominent. The space of consciousness becomes more and more prominent, and you kind of drop away from the individual circumstance, because there is no individual circumstance, because you're just sitting. You have the history, the past, which you can regurgitate over and over again. At some point, that's just like, okay, enough of that. And then you just have the circumstance, which is you're just sitting there. Nothing's happening at all. And then the mind just gives up. And then you just have this still. And in that stillness, then you actually begin to apprehend these larger energetic spaces like that have these qualities. So in the same way, in our active life, not our meditation retreat lives, but the lives that we live, it seems to me if you have enough, sort of mental hygiene going on in your relationship world and in your financial world and your food, and, obviously you can eat tons of pizza every day. And not that I have anything against pizza, but, you can sedate yourself with food, drink, drugs, television, Instagram, relationship fighting, relationship acquisition, whatever. Like you can fill your life with all that kind of stuff. But if you don't do that, you have basic mental hygiene going on, then you're sort of available to that. And I think that's probably the response that we're finding, is this feeling of collectivizing and having community and having connection with each other, is really saying we need to be more available to digest this large energetic movement that is essentially in a very destructive modality right now. But that destructive modality is also the other side of that, as it always is. On the other side of destruction is creation. So this is what I would say is the large scale occurrence that's happening.
Yes. Only a little end note. I solved the Instagram problem today.
Oh,
I deinstalled the app. I just simply deleted it. Instagram.
there you
Can
go.
you imagine it? I could actually just delete Instagram. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it? I don't have it anymore. And now I have time. So no, that was really interesting. It was really interesting because actually Instagram is like a reality, right? It's like a living creature or living reality, and then you just simply delete.
Yeah, it's like the alcoholic that says, like, I keep finding money in my pocket ever since I stopped drinking. You know, it's like, I find ever since I deleted Instagram, I'm having time. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, I definitely felt like a drug addict these last weeks and months. Um, I mean, I was really in a bad space. I was really, really depressed, really. But the using of like Instagram or another app, I deinstalled like 10 apps today, so it didn't make it better. Yeah. I always like use the apps to get some kind of relaxation, actually, some kind of I actually wanted to solve my problem, but it was not solved by using these apps. That's for sure. Yeah. I don't know if it would have been solved by not using, but it would never be solved by using them. That's for sure. So now I am in this another space. Yeah.
And I stopped listening to the news and looking at it. And it's been a while. And other people will bring up stuff now that's on the news that is supposedly horrifying. And I'm not emotionally involved with it, but I can see it's really getting to that person. So I was very interested in your saying that even though we're not connecting manually or listening to this stuff, the energy can still affect us, because that appears to be what was happening yesterday with some business I was trying to take care of. And I kept thinking, well, I don't have to get involved in this story, but emotionally, I kept getting hooked. Interesting.
Well, since you mentioned it, what do you think about formal meditation? So
About what?
about formal meditation, about meditation practice.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to do it, do it.
Mhm.
It's not, I mean, it's mostly people do that because they want to get to a result. And it would be valuable to look at the result you're trying to get to and why you want that result, and what you think you're in now that needs that result. That will save you, a bunch of years of sitting on a cushion. But if you like to sit on a cushion and have your knees hurt and have interesting experiences that you can tell your friends about, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I find myself meditating almost every day, but it's simply because there's absolutely nothing else to do at, 4:30 in the morning. I mean, unless I want to like sign up for Instagram and like, have my brain manipulated by oligarchs. So, at 4:30, it's a beautiful, quiet time. I mean, my whole system just is in that space, but I don't need sleep. So for me, that's meditation. It's sort of a natural outcropping of the energy itself. But to say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to spend a month sitting in order to get to that energy. Okay, that maybe bears a little examination. Like, where do I think I am now that needs to get someplace? And what's the someplace that I'm going to get to? Because I'm going to get there simply by imagining it. So why not just save the month and just imagine it?
Yeah, I feel meditation is like it's like a structure to not use Instagram to be in that um, metaphor. It's like yeah, it's a structure where I can permit myself what you do at 4:30 that I do it. Yeah, or that I fail to do it, and then
Yeah, but I'm not doing it 4:30 to not do something else.
mm,
I would much rather be asleep, actually. But as I'm not asleep and as there's nothing to do,
yeah.
I'm in whatever that space is. And having like laid down for 5 hours or whatever before, my body would rather sit up. So then it looks a lot like meditation. But to say, oh, I don't want to be, in this whatever addictive process, so I'm going to go meditate. Well, I guess that's, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on something. Maybe it does have some relative benefit, but now I'm addicted to, meditation. Is that better? Yeah, maybe, if I'm drinking alcohol or I'm on Instagram and I meditate instead, yeah, maybe there's incremental betterness in that, but also watch what the mind does with that, what the ego constructs around that. In some ways, it's more insidious, to be a drunk, you're like, it's unavoidably a mess, right? You're unavoidably in contact with the disintegration of your own life. Whereas meditation gives you the illusion that you're actually getting better. And
Uh,
you're not getting better. There's no better. So you're expressing something. And if the expression of that something is, like I'm in a bad shape and I want to be in better shape, then why not just be in better shape? Why go through the grueling, sitting cross-legged, cutting off the circulation so you have arthritis later in life?
I found a trick for going to sleep, and it works almost every time. And it's something I saw on YouTube, in which you just take a deep breath and a short one afterwards, and that's it. I find it almost works almost every time. And also for the meditation part, just taking a walk in nature. Just it's not a meditation. It seems to reconnect with energy, life itself,
Yeah.
without
So Linda, but to the point that we were in discussion around is, if I'm walking in nature because my life is so intensely stressful that I need to, change that state of mind, isn't the question, why is my life so stressful? I mean, clearly walking in nature is a beautiful thing. There's no question about that. I mean, other than if there's a grizzly bear that's going to eat you, then it's not so beautiful. But I think it's more about the dynamic that we have these spaces that we use to relieve ourselves of the dysfunction of our life. And I'm just suggesting that maybe the dysfunction of our life might be the place to be, to see how that could be engaged fully. Because I don't think if you engage the dysfunction of your life completely, like don't avoid it, don't shift it, don't whatever, like be it, that has its own transformational quality. If you and I are in like a completely dysfunctional relationship and I go take a walk in nature to get away from it, then I have the ability to come back into that dysfunction and like have it for another day. But if I had no place to go, then don't I have to question, what is this dysfunctional relationship and is it actual?
um I think of it differently, in that when I first wake up in the morning, I want to get to the sunrise. It's like
Mm.
an urge, not something to escape.
Okay.
And then the fresh air, I don't know, oxygen seems to be, it's not a cure for what's going on or to not look at something, but seems to land me in this what I think we're calling the unified space.
So,
And
so that's an example that your life is actually organized sufficiently well that you can do that, right? That you wake up, you have the ability to go to the sunrise, to breathe and all that. That's beautiful.
most days,
You're not getting away from something, you're expressing something.
yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, so I think this is what I'm saying about our personal life, is to declutter it sufficiently that we're able to express that natural, healthy, beautiful, loving, creative life. And when we find obstacles to that, stay with the obstacle. Find out, is that really necessary? Is there some way that could be engaged fully to see more deeply what it is?
And that occurred today too, in which I'm having a tit for tat with my son about the business, and we're both getting mad, and we stay engaged until, okay, I'll do this and you do that. Is that what you mean? By staying engaged and then, okay, and then the connection itself takes us to what's next. So if I disengaged from the connection with him because, oh, this is terrible and we're both getting mad, it doesn't work. If I stay with it,
It's not about it working. It's just about the engagement itself, the inherent quality of an undivided contact with yourself. That's
not with
all. I'm not
other.
saying, I don't know that it has ultimate utility. It just doesn't have division in it. And division is where the suffering takes place. So you can be angry with your son if you're totally in it, totally with that space. You don't have it, you don't step back from it, you're not disassociating, you're not trying to make it better, you just are it. That has no real suffering in it. It actually has contact in it. There is actually a relationship in that.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get what you're saying. I stay with it until I think we
No, that's it. That's
have a
the end. The end of
solution.
the sentence, you stay with it.
Huh?
It's not until. You just stay with it.
Stay with it. You just stay with it.
Just
What I was
collapse.
saying before
Collapse your-
is I'm staying with it to find a solution, right? But instead, you're saying, and I'm hearing, just stay with it. Don't worry about the solution.
You could say kind of like be part of the scene.
I like
Step
that.
into your role or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Would you say that staying with it, or whatever you said at the end, means to take myself out of it? Could you say that this is actually the same?
No,
Yes.
no, take yourself in it. I think it's what Renee said.
Yes, take myself in it, but take myself out of it, and my story out of it.
You can do whatever you want with your story. Their stories are irrelevant. You can discard it. I don't care.
I get it. Thank you.
It seems like there's this compulsion to get to another state, state shifting, like this isn't the right state, but it's just be with that state rather than seeking some kind of better state or what you would call a resolution. Just it is.
Yeah, because the state is, whatever the state is actually rich in information that we're not uptaking because we're so busy trying to make it something else. Like if it's pleasant, we're trying to keep it. If it's unpleasant, we're trying to push it away. We're not actually in the flow of that universal information, if you will. This is where I'm saying that the shift can be from this personal space into this broader space where this, we talked about these big anger, violent energies, these, loving energy. This is information. Actually, this is like, collective information. We haven't learned how to decode that because we're not in contact with it. It's a different level of intelligence. So you could say AI is becoming kind of like taking the place of our thought structures because it's going to be basically thinking for us better than we are. And so there's something else that we're about now, not about conceptualization, because we're getting lapped by computers and artificial intelligence, but there's something else in this collective space, it seems to me, that it's not about computer systems, Instagram, thought, or even attention for that matter, but it is a flow of universal information that we have access to if we simply are in it. So yeah, I collect you're on it. It's like whatever is showing up, what is it? You know, do we have enough contact and curiosity and interest in that before we throw it away for something that's supposedly better or something that's, you know, more pleasant? Let's just say with what it is and see how much capacity we have collectively to be with that. I speculate that there's something tremendously creative that is emergent that's requiring us to drop our obsession with pleasantness and simply be, and some of it is pleasant, some of it will be pleasant, but some of it is just bigger than our capacity. And that's a great place to be, bigger than our capacity. And then to see what that capacity actually is. It requires all of us. Now that's quite enough. All right. Thank you for your participation. It's really appreciated.